Have you ever stood before a natural wonder so strange, so breathtaking, that it felt like stepping into a legend? Picture this: a towering rock formation, its jagged edges clawing at the sky, while the wind carries whispers of an ancient tale. Locals say giants once walked here, shaping the land with their bare hands. But is it just a story, or could there be a kernel of truth hidden in the myth? Today, we're embarking on a journey to uncover the secrets behind 26 of the most bizarre landforms on Earth, each one a masterpiece of nature and a canvas for human imagination. These aren't just rocks and valleys, they're portals to another time where geology and folklore collide in the most extraordinary ways. From mountains said to be cursed by vengeful spirits to caves believed to house otherworldly beings, these landscapes have sparked awe and wonder for centuries. Think about it: how many generations have stood where we stand now, gazing up at these formations and spinning stories to explain the unexplainable? Every cliff, every crater, every winding canyon holds a piece of that collective human curiosity. And that's what makes this exploration so thrilling. We're not just studying landforms, we're unraveling the threads of history, culture, and legend that have wrapped themselves around these places like vines. So why do these stories endure? Perhaps because they remind us that the world is still full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. As we travel from one astonishing sight to the next, you'll see how the line between myth and reality blurs, how a simple geological quirk can inspire tales of gods, monsters, and lost civilizations. By the time we're done, you'll never look at these landscapes the same way again. Get ready to see the Earth not just as a planet, but as a storyteller, whispering its secrets to those who know how to listen. The adventure begins now. Rising like a sentinel from the rolling plains of Wyoming, Devil's Tower commands attention not just for its sheer size, but for the way it seems to defy logic. Those perfectly symmetrical columns, stretching skyward like a bundle of stone spears, look almost too precise to be natural. Yet here they stand, a geological puzzle wrapped in layers of legend. For the Lakota people, this isn't just a rock, it's the scarred battleground of an ancient struggle. Their stories tell of 7 sisters fleeing a giant bear, their prayers answered as the ground surged upward, lifting them to safety while the beast's claws raked the stone in fury. To this day, those vertical grooves seem to pulse with the energy of the tale. Scientists, of course, have their own version of events. They describe a volcanic plug, the hardened core of a volcano that once erupted here millions of years ago. Over time, erosion stripped away the softer outer layers, leaving behind this bizarre columned tower. But even geology has its mysteries. Why do these columns fit together so neatly, like pieces of a colossal honeycomb? And why does the tower feel so alive? Visitors often report a strange hum in the air, as if the rock itself is vibrating with untold energy. It's no wonder this place has become a magnet for UFO enthusiasts who swear it's a landing site for otherworldly visitors. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. After all, science explains the how, but myth gives us the why, the human need to make sense of the awe-inspiring. When you stand at the base of Devil's Tower, craning your neck to take in its dizzying height, it's easy to understand why generations have woven stories around it. The land doesn't just exist, it speaks. And sometimes the oldest tales carry echoes of realities we're only beginning to understand. Whether shaped by claws, lava, or something even more extraordinary, this monument reminds us that Earth's greatest wonders are often the ones that refuse to be easily explained. Deep in the sands of Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert, where the sun bleaches the earth and the wind carries the scent of burning gas, there's a crater that shouldn't exist, a gaping maw of fire that's been burning for decades. The Darvasa Gas Crater, better known as the Door to Hell, isn't just a geological oddity. It's a spectacle that feels ripped straight from mythology. Imagine standing at the edge of this pit, feeling the heat ripple against your skin as flames lick the air, their glow visible for miles in the barren desert night. Locals whisper that this is no accident of nature, but a literal gateway to the underworld, a warning to those who dare to disturb the Earth's secrets. The truth behind its creation is almost as wild as the legends. In 1971, Soviet engineers drilling for natural gas stumbled upon a cavern filled with methane. Hoping to burn off the dangerous gas, they set it alight, expecting the flames to die out within weeks. Instead, the fire took on a life of its own, feeding on an endless supply of gas and transforming the crater into a permanent inferno. Scientists see it as a stark example of humanity's miscalculations, a reminder of how little we truly control the forces beneath our feet. But for the nomadic tribes who have traversed these sands for centuries, the crater is something far more haunting. Some say the flames are the restless spirits of the damned. Others claim it's a cursed place where the earth itself is punishing human arrogance. What's undeniable is the eerie magnetism of the site. Travelers brave enough to approach describe an almost hypnotic pull, as if the flames are whispering secrets just beyond comprehension. Photographers flock here at dusk, when the crater's glow paints the desert in unearthly hues, and the line between science and superstition blurs. Even geologists admit there's something unsettling about the persistence of the fire, a 50-year reminder that some mistakes can't be undone. Whether you view it as a scientific curiosity or a supernatural warning, the door to hell forces us to confront a humbling truth. Beneath the thin crust of our world lies energy far older and more powerful than we can imagine. And sometimes, when we pry too carelessly into those depths, the earth answers back with fire. In the heart of Australia's sun-scorched outback, Uluru rises from the desert like a colossal monument carved by giants. But this isn't just a rock, it's a sacred library. Its every crevice and curve etched with stories older than time itself. To the Anangu people, the traditional custodians of this land, Uluru is alive with the energy of the Dreamtime, the ancestral era when the world was shaped by spirits who walked the earth. Those rust-colored cliffs aren't mere stone. They're the physical imprints of those beings, their deeds frozen in the rock like chapters of an ancient epic. Look closely and you'll see the scars where the ancestral Mala people fought battles, the caves where the Cunea python left her eggs, the grooves where the Luru warriors hurled their spears. Every feature is a sentence in a story written long before humans held pens. Geologists might describe Uluru as a sandstone in Selberg, a solitary remnant of erosion that survived while the softer rock around it wore away. But science alone can't capture the reverence this place inspires. The Anangu have long known what modern visitors are only beginning to grasp. Uluru isn't just something to look at, it's something to listen to. The wind whistling through its caves carries voices from the Dreamtime. The shifting colors at sunrise and sunset are said to be the ancestors painting the sky. When the Australian government finally banned climbing Uluru in 2019, it wasn't just about safety. It was an acknowledgement that some places hold meanings deeper than any photograph can capture. The rock's sheer faces, once scaled by tourists seeking a thrill, are actually sacred pathways used in rituals for millennia. To tread there carelessly isn't just dangerous, it's a violation of a living narrative. What makes Uluru so extraordinary is how it forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. Western science can map its composition, trace its formation over 600 million years, even predict how it will erode in the future. But the Anangu's stories, passed down through countless generations, offer a different kind of truth, one that binds people to place in ways data never could. Stand at its base as the stars emerge, and you might feel it too, the hum of something older than history, a reminder that land isn't just something we walk on, it's something we're part of. Whether you see it as a geological wonder or a spiritual compass, Uluru challenges us to rethink what it means to belong to this earth, and perhaps that's the most powerful legend of all. Tucked away in the remote wilderness of Arizona's Paria Canyon, the wave isn't just a rock formation, it's a mirage made real. Those hypnotic swirls of red, orange, and pink sandstone look like something from a dream, as if the desert itself took a breath and froze mid-motion. Scientists call it a cross-bedded sandstone marvel, shaped by wind and water over 190 million years. But staring at its fluid curves, it's hard not to wonder, how could something so perfectly sculpted be random? The Navajo have an answer. Their oral traditions tell of a time when the world was covered in water, and when the flood receded, the currents left behind this undulating masterpiece, a snapshot of the waves that once ruled the land. What makes the wave so extraordinary isn't just its beauty, but its exclusivity. Only 20 permits are granted each day, a safeguard to protect its fragile surface from erosion. Hikers who make the grueling trek through the desert no marked trails, just coordinates and a keen eye describe the moment of discovery as pure magic. 1 minute you're squinting under the relentless sun, the next you're standing inside a living painting where every shadow and sunbeam transforms the stone into new hues. Photographers obsess over the golden hour, when the low sun deepens the stripes of iron oxide and manganese, making the rock seem to pulse with color. But beyond the visual spectacle, there's an eerie stillness here, as if time moves differently within these curves. Theories about its formation range from the mundane to the mystical. Geologists point to the Jurassic-era sand dunes that once dominated this region, compacted and carved by eons of erosion. Yet even they admit the wave's symmetry is uncanny, almost intentional. Some visitors swear the place hums with energy, a vibration underfoot that matches the rhythm of the swirling patterns. Others whisper about strange compass malfunctions or fleeting shadows that vanish when you turn your head. Whether it's the isolation, the heat, or something deeper playing tricks on the mind, the wave doesn't just captivate, it unsettles. Perhaps that's why it lingers in the imagination long after you leave. Unlike towering cliffs or gaping canyons, the wave feels intimate, like a secret the earth is sharing only with you. It's a reminder that nature's artistry doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in curves and colors, waiting for the rare few who will brave the journey to listen. And in a world where so much is mapped and explained, that whisper might be the most precious thing of all. Rising like a fortress from the emerald sea of Venezuela's rainforest, Mount Roraima isn't just a mountain, it's a time capsule. That sheer, flat-topped silhouette, often veiled in swirling mist, looks less like a natural formation and more like a table set by giants. The Pamon people have known its power for centuries. To them, this Tepui, meaning House of the Gods, is all that remains of a colossal tree whose roots once anchored the sky itself. When it was felled in a mythical battle, the stump became Roraima, its cliffs too steep for mortals to climb without divine permission. Even today, the Pamon approach with reverence, leaving offerings to the spirits said to guard its summit. The mountain's isolation makes it a living laboratory of evolution. Cut off from the world for nearly 2 million years, its plateau is a lost world in every sense. When clouds part to reveal the summit, it's like lifting the lid on a prehistoric terrarium. Strange, stunted plants cling to the quartz-rich soil, their forms twisted by harsh winds and acidic rain. carnivorous pitcher plants gape like hungry mouths, while black frogs found nowhere else on Earth leap between pools of rainwater so pure it's barely touched mineral. Scientists call it an island in the sky, a refuge for species that vanished from the lowlands eons ago. It's no wonder Sir Arthur Conan Doyle imagined dinosaurs lurking here. In a way, he wasn't entirely wrong. While no velociraptors roam the foggy cliffs, the plateau's creatures might as well be relics from another age. Yet Roraima's true magic lies in its defiance of logic. Waterfalls plunge off its edges, vanishing into mist before reaching the ground. Rivers tinged pink by mineral deposits carve labyrinths through the rock, their courses shifting with the rains. And then there's the silence, a thick, otherworldly hush broken only by the wind or the cry of a rare bird. Explorers describe moments when the mist parts suddenly, revealing valleys of crystal formations that glitter like alien cities. It's easy to see why so many conspiracy theorists insist the mountain hides gateways to hidden realms or ancient alien bases. What's undeniable is the way Roraima warps perception. Spend a night on its summit, and you'll swear the stars hang closer here, their light sharper, as if the mountain's height has pierced some celestial veil. Modern climbers armed with GPS and gear still speak of compasses spinning wildly near certain cliffs, a phenomenon the Pamon attribute to the spirits testing intruders. Whether you come for the science or the legend, one thing's certain: this isn't just a mountain, it's a mirror reflecting whatever you believe about the Age of Wonders. And in a world where so much has been mapped and explained, that's a gift rarer than any fossil. On the rugged coast of Northern Ireland, where the Atlantic hurls itself against the cliffs, the giant's Causeway sprawls like a staircase built for titans. Those 40,000 interlocking basalt columns, their near-perfect hexagons fitting together like a colossal puzzle, defy belief. Run your hand along their smooth edges, and it's hard not to feel like you're touching something designed not by nature, but by hands far larger than ours. The Irish have known this for centuries. Their stories tell of Finn McCool, a giant so mighty he tore up chunks of the Antrim coast to build a bridge to Scotland, daring his rival Benandana to cross. When the fight turned against him, Finn's quick-thinking wife disguised him as a baby, and the sight of such a child sent the Scottish giant fleeing in terror, destroying the causeway behind him. To this day, the same formations reappear on Scotland's Isle of Staffa, as if confirming the tale. Geologists, of course, have a different explanation. They describe a cataclysmic volcanic eruption 60 million years ago, when molten basalt met cold seawater, fracturing into these precise geometric shapes as it cooled. The process, called columnar jointing, occurs elsewhere but nowhere with such symmetry or scale. Even the most data-driven scientists admit there's something uncanny about the causeway. Why do so many columns form flawless hexagons, the same shape bees used to build honeycombs? Why do some towers loom like organ pipes, while others flatten into stepping stones as if arranged for a purpose? It's as if nature took a rulebook from geometry and then decided to show off. What's fascinating is how these explanations, myth and science, aren't really at odds. The legend of Finn McCool doesn't just entertain, it encodes truths about human perception. When faced with patterns this orderly, our brains rebel at the idea of randomness. We need the giant. Without him, the causeway becomes almost too strange to comprehend. Standing there, listening to the waves boom against the columns, you start to understand why folklore clings to such places. Science tells us how the causeway formed, but the story of Finn gives it meaning, turning a volcanic accident into a saga of pride, cleverness, and the timeless urge to bridge divides. Modern visitors still play with this duality. Children leap from column to column, pretending they're following Finn's footsteps, while geologists crouch to examine the mineral veins. Artists photograph the stones at sunset when they glow like copper, and poets scribble verses about giants in the mist. Even the UNESCO plaque nods to both worlds, calling the Causeway a site of global geological significance, while acknowledging its rich cultural associations. Perhaps that's the real magic here, not the choice between myth and fact, but the way the two entwine, each making the other more vivid. After all, isn't it more thrilling to walk a path where giants once tread, even if we know the stones were shaped by fire and time? The Causeway doesn't force us to pick a side, it simply asks us to wonder, and in a world obsessed with answers, that might be the greatest gift of all. In the arid expanse of China's Gansu province, the Shanghai Danxia landform erupts from the earth like a fever dream. Those undulating hills, striped in violent shades of crimson, gold, and turquoise, look less like geology and more like a Van Gogh painting come to life. Locals have long-spun tales of celestial dragons who once battled here, their blood and scales staining the earth in these psychedelic hues, but the truth is no less extraordinary. Over 24 million years, layers of sandstone, iron, and trace minerals stacked like pages in a book, each chapter oxidized into a different color by the relentless kiss of wind and rain. What we're seeing isn't just rock, it's a time lapse of Earth's artistry compressed into something so vivid it feels impossible. Scientists can map the chemistry behind each band. The reds from iron oxide, the greens from chlorite, the yellows from sulfur, but standing here, data feels insufficient. The way the colors shift at dawn, burning from ochre to neon pink, or how the midday sun makes the ridges vibrate like heat mirages, defies textbook explanations. UNESCO calls it a geological masterpiece, but visitors often leave with the unsettling sense that they've glimpsed something beyond human scale. Photographers joke that no filter can replicate the intensity, even their best shots look doctored. It's as if the land itself is performing, daring us to question what's real. What makes Shanghai so mesmerizing isn't just its beauty, but its defiance of expectation. Deserts are supposed to be monochrome, endless tans and browns. These hills rebel, flaunting hues you'd expect in a coral reef or a jungle orchid. Local guides whisper that the colors deepen after rainfall, as if the mountains are drinking the sky. Geologists nod, explaining how water activates the mineral's brilliance, but even they admit there's magic in the effect, and then there's the silence. Unlike other wonders where crowds chatter and cameras click, Shanghai often leaves people wordless. You'll see travelers sitting alone on the viewing platforms, just staring, as if trying to imprint the sight directly into their bones. Perhaps that's the true power of this place. It doesn't just show us how Earth works, it makes us feel small in the best way. In a world where we've mapped every inch and explained every process, Shanghai remains stubbornly transcendent. The dragons may be myth, but the awe they inspired is real. When a landscape feels too radiant to belong to this planet, it's not just challenging geology, it's reminding us that wonder doesn't require fantasy. Sometimes reality is strange enough, stretching along New Zealand's Cocoa Beach like a giant's abandoned marbles. The Moiraki Boulders stop visitors in their tracks. These massive stone spheres, some weighing several tons, lie half buried in the sand as if the tide just delivered them yesterday. Their surfaces crack like aged porcelain, revealing intricate patterns that seem too deliberate for chance. To the Maori, these aren't random rocks, they're remnants of a tragic voyage. Their legends tell of the Araturu canoe, wrecked long ago on these shores, its cargo of gourds and sweet potatoes transformed into stone by time and salt. The largest boulder, known as Te Kaihanaki, is said to be the captain's food basket forever frozen mid-spill. Geologists offer a different origin story, though no less wondrous. These spherical giants began forming 60 million years ago, when minerals in ancient seabed mud began crystallizing around a nucleus, a shell fragment or bone layer by patient layer, like pearls in an oyster. The cracks, called septaria, formed as the concretions dried, filling with calcite and quartz that now glitter like stained glass when the light hits just right. What's baffling isn't just their near-perfect roundness, but their distribution. Why do some cluster in groups while others stand alone, as if placed by invisible hands? And why here, on this lonely stretch of coast, standing beside them at low tide? It's easy to see why these boulders spark such wild theories. Some UFO enthusiasts insist they're ancient navigation markers for extraterrestrial visitors, pointing to their alignment with certain stars. Others whisper of lost civilizations with forgotten technology, capable of molding stone like clay. Even skeptics admit there's something eerie about the way the boulders catch the light at dusk, their shadows stretching across the sand like sundials for giants. But perhaps their real magic lies in how they bridge worlds. For scientists, they're a textbook example of sedimentary concretion, a process seen everywhere from the Dakota Badlands to Mars. For storytellers, they're vessels of myth, carrying the voices of ancestors across generations. And for the rest of us, they're pure invitation. Run your fingers over their cool, weathered surfaces, and you're touching both deep time and human imagination, fused together in stone. The Moiraki Boulders don't ask you to choose between fact and folklore. They simply exist, as stubborn and mysterious as the sea that shaped them, reminding us that some wonders are too rich for just one explanation. From the vast emptiness of the Mauritanian desert, the eye of the Sahara peers skyward, a colossal bull's-eye stretching 30 miles across, so precise it seems drawn by cosmic hands. Early astronauts used it as a landmark, its concentric rings unmistakable from orbit. When scientists first spotted it, they assumed a meteor had scarred the Earth here, but the truth turned out to be stranger. This is the Racetrack structure, a geological oddity where the planet itself has peeled back its layers, revealing rings of rock that spiral like a frozen whirlpool. Erosion carved this open book over hundreds of millions of years, exposing the skeleton of an ancient volcanic dome. Yet for all the scientific explanations, there's an unsettling perfection to its form that refuses to be dismissed. Theories about the eye spiral as dramatically as its ridges. Some researchers, studying Plato's descriptions of Atlantis, its circular city, and alternate zones of sea and land, insist the Racetrack is a dead ringer for the lost civilization. Could those weathered ridges once have been canals? Is the absence of volcanic rock proof that human hands, not nature, shaped this place? Archaeologists dismiss the idea, pointing to the lack of artifacts, but the allure persists. Even satellite images feed the mystery, showing what look like submerged structures near the coast, as if the ocean swallowed Atlantis's outskirts. The debate rages, but one thing's certain: the eye doesn't give up its secrets easily. Local nomadic tribes, the true keepers of this land, have their own stories. They call it the Eye of the Jinn, a place where desert spirits gather. Few venture into its center, where the silence is so thick it presses against your eardrums, and the heat warps the air into phantom shapes. Herders speak of compass needles spinning wildly, of faint drumbeats echoing from empty ravines. Geologists chalk it up to magnetic anomalies and wind whistling through rock, but try telling that to someone who's felt the weight of that gaze. The eye doesn't just watch, it judges. What makes the Racetrack so hypnotic isn't just its scale or symmetry, it's the way it distorts time. Stand in its heart, and the rust-colored walls rise around you like the ruins of a colosseum built for gods. The rock layers tell a story older than dinosaurs, yet the air hums with something immediate, almost urgent. Scientists come to study its folds and fractures, artists to capture its otherworldly palette ochres, blacks, and blinding whites that shift with the sun. And then there are the dreamers who stand at the edge, squinting into the haze, half expecting to see the spires of Atlantis glinting in the distance. Maybe that's the eye's greatest trick. It doesn't matter whether you see a geological textbook or a drowned city. What matters is the itch it leaves in your mind, the nagging sense that some truths are too big for any one explanation. In a world where we've mapped every peak and plotted every trench, the Racetrack remains a riddle wrapped in stone. It reminds us that the Earth is still capable of wonder, still able to make even the most rational among us ask, what if? And sometimes that question is more thrilling than any answer. Deep in China's Yunnan province, the stone forest of Shilin erupts from the earth like a petrified army frozen mid-March. Those jagged limestone pillars, some stretching over 100 feet tall, crowd together so densely that sunlight barely reaches the ground between them. Wandering the narrow pathways feels like stepping into a myth, one where the rocks themselves might twist to block your exit if you disrespect the spirits. For the Yi people, this isn't just a geological wonder, it's the aftermath of a love story written in stone. Their legends tell of Ashima, a young woman so beautiful her voice could silence birds. When a jealous suitor summoned a flood to drown her, her beloved turned the raging waters to stone with a sacred chant, trapping the waves forever as these towering spires. Even today, locals say if you listen closely at dusk, you can hear Ashima's voice echoing through the labyrinth, a ghostly lullaby woven into the wind. Scientists have their own version of events, no less dramatic in its own way. Over 270 million years, acidic rainwater dissolved the region's soft limestone, carving fissures that deepened into canyons, then towers. The process, called karst erosion, sculpted similar formations from Vietnam to Madagascar, but nowhere with Shilin's uncanny artistry. Some pillars lean like drunken giants, others split into clusters resembling families huddled together. Certain angles reveal faces in the stone, a profile here, a scowling mouth there, as if the rock absorbed the emotions of everyone who ever walked here. Geologists shrug and call it pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see patterns, but try telling that to a Yi elder who spent a lifetime hearing Ashima's whispers in the crevices. What makes Shilin so mesmerizing isn't just its scale or age, but how it blurs the line between earth and imagination. During the annual Torch Festival, dancers weave through the pillars with flaming brands, their light casting monstrous shadows that writhe across the stone. Visitors who have gotten lost here, and there are many, describe an eerie sensation of being watched, of pathways shifting when their backs are turned. Even the most skeptical admit the forest has a rhythm, a pulse felt through the soles of your feet. Guides warn against touching certain formations, not for fear of damage, but because locals insist the stones remember. Some boulders, when struck lightly, ring like bells, their vibrations humming through the entire valley. Scientists attribute it to the limestone's unique crystalline structure, but to the Yi, it's Ashima's heartbeat. Perhaps that's the secret of this place. Most landscapes demand we choose between science and myth, but Shilin thrives in the tension between them. The same erosion that created these towers also polished their surfaces to an eerie smoothness, as if shaped by hands. The same wind that carved the stone now carries voices only some can hear. Whether you come to study karst topography or to chase ghosts, the forest refuses to be just one thing. It's a reminder that the earth doesn't just shape stories, it becomes them. And in the hush between those towering stones, it's easy to believe that if you stay quiet enough, the land might just whisper its next chapter. Death Valley's Racetrack playa is a place where logic seems to unravel. Picture a vast, cracked mudflat under the blistering sun, dotted with boulders that appear to have taken midnight strolls. These sailing stones, some weighing as much as a small car, leave behind long, meandering trails in the earth as if they've been dragged by invisible hands. For years, this phenomenon was one of geology's greatest riddles. How could rocks move on their own with no sign of human or animal interference? The locals had their theories. Some whispered of ghostly forces, others of extraterrestrial pranksters. But the truth, when it finally came, was both simpler and stranger than anyone imagined. Scientists discovered the secret in 2013, after decades of speculation. During rare winter nights when temperatures plunge, thin sheets of ice form on the playa. When the sun rises, the ice begins to melt and fracture into floating panels. A light breeze, sometimes as gentle as 10 miles per hour, pushes these ice sheets across the shallow water, carrying the rocks with them. The stones glide at a snail's pace, leaving those eerie trails in the soft mud beneath. It's a perfect storm of conditions, just enough ice to reduce friction, just enough wind to provide motion, and just enough sunlight to make it all happen before the desert bakes dry again. Yet even with the mystery solved, the sailing stones haven't lost their magic. Maybe it's the way their paths curve and cross unpredictably, like drunken dancers. Or the fact that some boulders move in tandem while others sit stubbornly still for decades. There's something deeply human about our refusal to fully accept the scientific explanation. Old ranchers still swap stories about the playa's restless spirits, and visitors half joke about catching a rock mid-creep. It's as if we want the world to keep a few secrets. What's fascinating is how these stones mirror our own relationship with the unknown. Science gives us answers, but it doesn't always satisfy the part of us that craves wonder. Standing on the playa at dawn, watching the light spill over those silent trails, it's easy to understand why. The sailing stones aren't just a quirk of physics. They're a reminder that even in an age of satellites and algorithms, the Earth still has the power to surprise us. And sometimes the most ordinary forces, ice, wind, time, can create something extraordinary enough to feel like a miracle. The next time you're faced with something inexplicable, ask yourself, is it the answer you want or the mystery itself? Death Valley's wandering rocks suggest that maybe, just maybe, the two aren't so different after all. Rising from the Western Australian outback like a tsunami turned to stone, Wave Rock defies every expectation of what rock should look like. That sweeping curve, 15 meters high and over 100 meters long, looks less like geology and more like a force of nature caught mid-action, as if the moment the wave was about to crash, some ancient hand pressed pause. The Noongar people, who have lived with this marvel for tens of thousands of years, know it as Cappadocia, a place steeped in the power of the rainbow serpent. Their stories tell of a great flood summoned by this creator spirit, its waters carving the land before receding, leaving behind this frozen crest as both warning and wonder. Stand beneath its overhang at noon, when the sun sets the striations ablaze in reds and ochres, and you'll swear you can still hear the roar of that mythical deluge. Scientists trace Wave Rock's origins to something almost as awe-inspiring: 2.7 billion years of patient erosion. That's not a typo. This granite monolith predates multicellular life, dinosaurs, even the oxygen in our atmosphere. Rainwater pooling along its crest seeped into cracks, dissolving minerals and widening fissures grain by grain. Wind scoured its face, polishing the curves we see today. But what's truly mind-bending is the rock's hidden symmetry. From above, the wave isn't solitary, it's part of a larger, circular formation called Hidden Rock. like a single crest in a petrified ripple. Time didn't just sculpt this place, it composed a symphony in stone. Visitors often report an uncanny sensation here, as if the rock pulses with energy. Some swear their camera batteries drain inexplicably fast near its base. Others describe a low hum like distant thunder when pressing an ear to its surface. Geologists attribute this to vibrations from wind passing through fissures or subtle shifts in the rock's massive weight. Yet even the most data-driven researchers admit there's something eerie about how perfectly wave rock captures motion in stillness. Photographers obsess over the golden hour when shadows deepen its curves into something almost liquid. Artists struggle to capture its scale. No canvas feels big enough to contain the weight of those billions of years. What makes wave rock so profound isn't just its age or shape, but how it bridges worldviews. For the Noongar, it's a living lesson about respecting nature's power, a reminder that the land remembers. For scientists, it's a timeline etched in granite, proof of Earth's relentless creativity. And for the rest of us, it's a mirror. Stare into that wave long enough, and you start to see our own fleeting existence reflected back, a blink in geological time. Whether you come for the science, the myth, or the sheer spectacle, one thing's certain: this isn't just a rock, it's a conversation with deep time, and it's been waiting for you. The chocolate hills of Bohol look like something straight out of a children's story book, endless rows of lush, rounded mounds stretching as far as the eye can see, each one nearly identical in shape, like nature's own batch of perfectly portioned cupcakes. When the dry season arrives, the grass withers to a deep, velvety brown, transforming the landscape into what appears to be a sea of chocolate kisses. It's no wonder locals once believed these hills were the hardened tears of Arogo, a grief-stricken giant who wept for a mortal woman he loved and lost. Legend says his tears fell so thick and heavy, they formed these gentle domes, a bittersweet monument to a love that defied the boundaries of worlds. Geologists, of course, have a different tale to tell. These hills are the result of an epic battle between land and sea that played out over millions of years. Once submerged beneath ancient oceans, layers of coral and limestone were thrust upward by tectonic forces, then sculpted by centuries of wind, rain, and erosion into these uncannily uniform shapes. The magic lies in their symmetry despite numbering over 1,200. No two hills are exactly alike, yet they share an almost choreographed harmony, as if arranged by some celestial landscaper. Scientists call it a textbook example of conical karst topography, but standing among them, it's hard not to feel like you've wandered into a dream. What makes the chocolate hills so captivating isn't just their whimsy, it's the way they challenge our need to categorize. Are they natural wonders or works of art? The answer, like the hills themselves, refuses to be pinned down. Visitors describe an almost childlike giddiness when climbing to the viewpoint at Carmen, where the hills unfold in every direction like a rumpled green quilt. At sunrise, when mist clings to their curves, they seem to hover above the earth. By midday, the sunlight sharpens their edges, revealing the subtle variations in height and slope that make each one unique. And then there's the silence, no crashing waves or rustling forests, just the whisper of grass bending in the breeze, as if the hills themselves are breathing. Even the name Chocolate Hills plays with duality. It's playful, inviting, yet it masks the sheer geological force behind their creation. These aren't delicate confections, they're the scars of an earth in motion, shaped by the same raw power that builds mountains and carves canyons. That contrast between the gentle appearance and the violent origins is what lingers in the mind long after you leave. Whether you see them through the lens of myth or science, one thing's certain: the hills refuse to be ordinary. They're a reminder that the world's most enchanting places often hide the wildest stories, if only we're willing to listen. And in Bohol, the land doesn't just speak, it sings, in a voice as sweet as chocolate and as old as time. Deep beneath the arid mountains of Mexico's Naka mine lies a chamber that feels less like a cave and more like a cathedral built by the earth itself. The Cave of the Crystals is a realm of impossible geometry, where translucent selenite spears some longer than school buses crisscross the cavern like the ribs of a fallen titan. Discovered by miners in 2000, this subterranean wonder seems plucked from science fiction. Temperatures here soar to 58 degrees Celsius with near 100% humidity, conditions so extreme that unprotected explorers risk heat stroke within minutes. Yet for all its danger, the cave's allure is undeniable. Sunlight might never touch these crystals, but their own eerie glow, catching what little light penetrates the depths, makes the walls shimmer like frozen lightning. Local legends whispered about this place long before its discovery. The indigenous peoples of Chihuahua spoke of Itzcuintli, a cosmic serpent said to slumber beneath the mountains, its scales forged from living crystal. Some miners still refuse to enter, convinced the cave is the beast's sacred den. Scientists scoff at such tales, but even they can't deny the otherworldly energy here. The crystals grew over 500,000 years as mineral-rich groundwater seeped through the caves, depositing gypsum molecule by patient molecule. What's staggering is their purity. These aren't the cloudy quartz clusters of souvenir shops, but flawless blades so transparent they bend light like glass. Venturing inside is like stepping into a diamond's heart. The air hangs thick enough to taste, each breath a struggle against the oppressive heat. Explorers clad in ice-cooled suits move like astronauts on an alien world, their headlamps fracturing into rainbows as the beams slice through the crystals. Touch one and you'll find it's warm not just from ambient heat, but as if pulsing with some deep, slow energy. Researchers have recorded strange acoustic properties here too. Whispers bounce between the crystals in distorted echoes, creating the illusion of distant voices. No wonder early expeditions reported feeling watched. The cave poses a tantalizing paradox. It's both a geologist's dream and a nightmare. The same conditions that grew these crystals now threaten their survival. Since the mine's pumps were turned off in 2015, groundwater has begun refilling the chamber, dissolving the very formations it once created. Some see this as poetic justice, nature reclaiming its masterpiece. Others race to document every inch before the crystals vanish beneath the rising tide. What lingers isn't just the image of those radiant spires, but the questions they provoke. Are we witnessing a fluke of chemistry or something more profound? Perhaps the truth lies in the way the cave mirrors its own legends. Like the serpent Itzcuintli, these crystals are both beautiful and deadly, offering wonder to those who dare approach, but only at a cost. They remind us that the Earth's most breathtaking secrets often come with conditions, and that some doors once opened refuse to stay shut. Whether temple or time capsule, the Cave of the Crystals doesn't give up its meaning easily. And maybe that's exactly how it should be. In the frozen expanse of Antarctica's Taylor Glacier, a violent streak of crimson slashes through the ice like a wound that refuses to heal. This is Blood Falls, a bizarre, rust-colored cascade that stains the pristine white landscape as if the earth itself is bleeding. When early explorers first stumbled upon this ghastly sight in 1911, their minds raced with grim possibilities. Had some tragic accident befallen a previous expedition? Was this evidence of a long-forgotten battle in this lifeless void? The truth, when it was uncovered, turned out to be stranger than any fiction. Beneath 400 meters of ancient ice lies a hidden lake. its waters so saturated with iron that they've turned the consistency of syrup. Trapped for over 2 million years, this brine seeps through fissures in the glacier, oxidizing upon contact with the air and transforming into that shocking scarlet hue. But the real marvel isn't the color, it's what thrives in those toxic waters. Scientists discovered an entire ecosystem of extremophile microbes, organisms that flourish without sunlight or oxygen, feeding on sulfates and iron in a process unlike anything seen on the surface. These hardy life forms rewrite the rules of survival, proving that even in darkness, under crushing pressure and freezing temperatures, life finds a way. What makes Blood Falls so extraordinary isn't just its otherworldly appearance, but the doors it opens for science. Researchers now study these microbes as proxies for potential life on icy moons like Europa or Enceladus, where subsurface oceans might harbor similar conditions. The falls act as a natural laboratory, offering glimpses into how life could persist in the cosmos's most unforgiving corners. And then there's the glacier's eerie singing. Seismic instruments have picked up vibrations caused by water shifting deep within the ice, creating a low-frequency hum that reverberates through the valley, a ghostly soundtrack to this alien landscape. For all its scientific significance, Blood Falls hasn't lost its mythic power. Indigenous legends from warmer continents speak of bleeding mountains as omens or portals to the spirit world. Modern visitors standing before the scarlet flow often describe an uncanny sense of witnessing something ancient and alive. Maybe it's the way the brine pulses slightly with the glacier's movements, or the knowledge that this ecosystem has survived in isolation for millennia. Whatever the reason, the falls don't just challenge our understanding of life, they stir something primal in us, a reminder that even in the most hostile environments, the planet keeps its most astonishing secrets hidden in plain sight. So the next time you think of Antarctica as a barren wasteland, remember, beneath its frozen skin, the Earth is still breathing, and sometimes it bleeds. Rising from the heart of Turkey like something out of a storybook, Cappadocia's fairy chimneys defy logic with their whimsical shapes, towering cones crowned with dark, hat-like boulders, as if giants once left their stone umbrellas behind. Wind and water sculpted these spires over millions of years, but it's the human stories clinging to their curves that make them unforgettable. Early Christians, fleeing Roman persecution, hollowed out entire cities within these soft volcanic rocks, carving hidden churches and underground labyrinths where candlelight still flickers against frescoes of saints. Yet locals will tell you these aren't just caves, they're the chimneys of fairy kitchens, where mythical beings once cooked feasts under the moonlight. The truth, as always here, is stranger than fiction. What makes these formations so mesmerizing isn't just their surreal beauty, but the way they've served as both sanctuary and spectacle. The chimney's unique structure, hard basalt caps protecting softer rock beneath, created natural fortresses. Historians describe how entire communities vanished into the honeycombed earth during invasions, their livestock and supplies hidden in chambers so well concealed, some weren't rediscovered until the 20th century. Meanwhile, folklore insists the fairies weren't just cooks but guardians, their presence warding off invaders with tricks of light and sound. Even today, guides whisper about faint laughter echoing through the valleys at dusk, or the way certain caves stay mysteriously warm in winter, as if some unseen hearth still burns. Modern Cappadocia straddles these worlds effortlessly. At dawn, hundreds of hot air balloons rise like floating lanterns above the chimneys, their vibrant silks mirroring the rock's pink and gold hues. It's a sight that feels both ancient and utterly new. Balloon pilots navigate using the same wind patterns that shape the spires, while below, boutique hotels carved into the rock offer beds where you can sleep inside a fairy tale. Scientists might call it tough erosion, but stand in the Rose Valley as the setting sun sets the stones ablaze, and you'll understand why even the most pragmatic visitors leave with a handful of fairy dust volcanic ash, sold by grinning local children tucked in their pockets. The real magic of Cappadocia lies in its refusal to be just one thing. Are the Chimneys geological masterpieces? Undoubtedly. Are they also portals to something older and wilder? The way shadows dance across their ridges at twilight suggests even the rocks themselves haven't decided. Perhaps that's why this place endures not as a museum of the past, but as a living canvas where history, myth, and the sheer joy of discovery paint something new every day. Whether you come for the balloons, the frescoes, or the whisper of wings in the wind, one thing's certain. In Cappadocia, the line between earth and enchantment isn't just blurred, it's woven into the very stone. Tucked away in British Columbia's arid valleys, Spotted Lake looks like a child's playful experiment, a body of water that transforms into a polka-dotted mosaic when summer heat steals its moisture. Those surreal circles, ranging from neon yellow to deep turquoise, aren't just a quirk of evaporation. They're concentrated pools of minerals like magnesium sulfate and calcium, each one a tiny, bubbling laboratory. To the Okanagan Syilx people, this place is Tlaloc, a sacred site where the earth's tears hold healing power. For generations, their healers gathered here, harnessing the waters to soothe ailments from arthritis to battle wounds. The lake shores still bear silent witness to those pilgrimages' footpaths worn smooth by centuries of bare feet carrying the sick and hopeful. Scientists, too, are drawn to Tlaloc's otherworldly chemistry. The lake's mineral cocktail is so potent that during World War I, workers harvested its salts for munitions factories, scraping the deposits by hand. Today, researchers study its extreme concentrations as analogues for alien landscapes, theorizing how similar briny pools might exist on Mars. But what's truly fascinating isn't just the science or the spirituality, it's how seamlessly they intertwine here. Modern geologists confirm what Syilx oral traditions have long asserted. These waters do have therapeutic properties. The magnesium sulfate, crystallizing in jagged rings around each pool, is the same compound sold in pharmacies as Epsom salt. The iron-rich ochre stains, identical to pigments used in indigenous medicine for their antibacterial qualities, yet Tlaloc resists easy categorization. During the wet season, it's an unassuming blue puddle, giving no hint of the spectacle to come. As the water retreats, the lake stages its masterpiece, a mosaic that shifts daily, with minerals reacting to sunlight and temperature like a living canvas. Visitors lucky enough to witness this transformation describe an almost electric charge in the air, a sense that they're glimpsing some ancient alchemical recipe. The Syilx warn against taking the waters lightly. Stories tell of disrespectful outsiders who pocketed crystals, only to suffer strange misfortunes until they return them. Perhaps the lake's real lesson lies in its refusal to be owned. Fenced off from public access since 2001 to protect its cultural and ecological fragility, Tlaloc remains a touchstone for both microscope and medicine bundle. It's a place where data and dream time shake hands, where a puddle no deeper than a bathtub holds universes of meaning. Whether you see a geological oddity or a living pharmacy, one truth remains: some wonders refuse to fit neatly into boxes. And maybe that's exactly as it should be. Beneath the crystal-clear waters of Mexico's Senote Angelita lies a scene so bizarre it feels like a glitch in reality. A ghostly river, complete with frothing rapids and submerged trees flowing underwater. Divers who brave the sinkhole's depths describe the moment they hit the hydrogen sulfide layer as something out of a nightmare. 1 second, they're gliding through turquoise tranquility. The next, they're peering into a murky, misty current that seems to defy the laws of physics. This isn't just an optical illusion, it's a chemical marvel. As fresh water from the surface meets denser salt water below, a thick blanket of hydrogen sulfide forms between them, creating the uncanny appearance of a riverbed complete with banks of decaying leaves and branches. The effect is so convincing, it's easy to forget you're still submerged, not standing on some shadowy forest floor. For the ancient Maya, cenotes weren't just swimming holes, they were sacred gateways to Xibalba, the treacherous underworld where spirits waged eternal battles. The name Angelita, meaning little angel, feels like a cruel joke when you witness the sinkhole's darker side. Local guides whisper about divers who have felt invisible hands tugging them toward the phantom river's current, or the way flashlights beam unnaturally through the sulfide cloud, casting shadows that move against the water's flow. Scientists dismiss these tales as disorientation caused by nitrogen narcosis, but even the most rational explorers admit there's something primal about the fear this place evokes. It's as if the cenote is testing you, asking how far you'll go before the illusion swallows your sense of reality whole. What makes Senote Angelita so mesmerizing isn't just its supernatural aesthetic, it's the way it plays with perception. The hydrogen sulfide layer acts like a liquid mirror, refracting light so that divers above appear to float over an abyss, their silhouettes warping like specters. Below the river, the water clears again, revealing a sunken world of stalactites and marine life that somehow thrives in the toxic darkness. Biologists are fascinated by the extremophiles here, organisms that metabolize sulfur instead of oxygen, much like the microbes in Antarctica's blood falls. It's a reminder that life adapts to even the most hostile corners of our planet, and perhaps beyond. Yet the cenote's true power lies in its duality. By day, sunlight pierces the water, turning it into an azure dreamscape perfect for Instagram snaps. But descend just 30 meters and the mood shifts entirely. The temperature drops, the light fades, and that eerie river emerges like a boundary between worlds. Photographers obsess over capturing its haunting beauty, while archaeologists ponder whether the Maya's legends of Xibalba were inspired by similar dives into the unknown. After all, if you didn't understand chemistry, wouldn't you too believe this was a portal to something older and darker? Diving Senote Angelita isn't just a plunge into water, it's a descent into the human psyche. That phantom river challenges everything we think we know about nature, fear, and the stories we tell to make sense of the inexplicable. Whether you see it as a scientific wonder or a spiritual gauntlet, one thing's certain: some mysteries refuse to stay buried. And sometimes the most terrifying truths aren't hidden in the darkness, they're lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the brave or foolhardy to come looking. Deep in the rainforests of Meghalaya, where monsoon rains turn rivers into roaring torrents, the Causeway people have mastered an art form that blurs the line between cultivation and magic. Their living root bridges aren't built, they're grown. Picture this: slender tendrils of the Ficus elastica tree coaxed across streams using hollowed-out betel nut trunks, their roots guided by human hands but shaped by decades of patient growth. Over 20 to 30 years, what begins as a fragile thread thickens into a braided artery strong enough to support 50 people at once. These aren't just crossings, they're collaborations between species, where trees and humans write an unspoken contract with time as their witness. What makes these bridges extraordinary isn't just their strength. Though pound for pound, mature root fibers rival steel cables, but their living intelligence. Unlike static concrete or wooden structures, the Causeway bridges adapt. When floods scour away conventional bridges, the roots grip tighter, growing thicker in response to stress. Some bridges span over 50 meters, their latticework of roots forming handrails and pathways that evolve with each passing season. Elders speak of bridges remembering. They claim the roots learn where to grow based on foot traffic, reinforcing heavily trodden sections while allowing unused parts to thin naturally. Modern botanists confirm this isn't fantasy. Plants exhibit a form of memory through chemical signaling, and the Causeway have harnessed this in ways science is only beginning to understand. The process is a lesson in slow alchemy. A bridge builder might start by selecting a young rubber fig near a riverbank, then train its aerial roots across the water using temporary bamboo scaffolds. As the roots lengthen, they're woven together or threaded through existing structures, their tips sometimes tucked into the opposite bank where they'll take root anew. Generations of caretakers, often from the same family, tend these living projects, their lives intertwined with the bridge's growth. There's no blueprint, only oral tradition passed down like the roots themselves. Twist clockwise for better tensile strength, leave gaps for monsoon waters to pass through, never force growth but gently persuade it. Visitors expecting rustic footpaths are stunned by the bridge's sophistication. The double-decker root bridge of Nongriat village, with its upper and lower crossings, demonstrates an almost architectural foresight. Moss-covered steps formed from roots conform perfectly to human footfalls, while overhead canopies of leaves provide shelter from rain. At dawn, when mist clings to the valleys, the bridges seem to breathe, their surfaces damp and yielding underfoot. Scientists marvel at their carbon-negative construction, no emissions, no waste, just photosynthesis and patience. Meanwhile, Causeway folklore tells of a time when spiders taught the first bridge weavers their craft, spinning silk between trees as a model for root lacing. Perhaps the most humbling truth about these bridges is what they represent, a rejection of the false choice between progress and preservation. In an age obsessed with speed and steel, the Causeway remind us that some solutions can't be rushed, that resilience often looks like flexibility rather than force. Their bridges don't conquer nature, they converse with it. And as climate change makes conventional infrastructure increasingly vulnerable, these living lattices whisper an urgent question. What other wisdom have we forgotten in our race to rebuild the world from scratch? Standing on a root bridge, feeling its pulse beneath your palms, you realize this isn't just a way across a river. It's a roadmap to coexistence, written in bark and time. In the heart of Namibia's Namib Desert, where the sands glow like molten copper at sunrise, the dunes of Sossusvlei don't just sit silently, they sing. Those towering waves of rust-colored sand, some reaching over 300 meters high, produce an eerie, low-frequency hum when the grains cascade down their steep slopes. To the indigenous San people, this sound was the voice of their ancestors, a warning or a blessing carried on the wind. They called it the Song of the Dunes, believing the spirits of the desert spoke through these vibrations. Even today, standing at the base of a booming dune, it's hard not to feel like you're hearing something ancient and alive. Scientists have unraveled part of the mystery. The phenomenon, known as singing sand, occurs when uniformly sized grains slide in synchronized motion, creating friction that generates sound waves. The drier the sand and the steeper the dune, the louder the chorus. But what's baffling is the precision required. Only certain dunes sing, and only under specific conditions. Some emit deep, cello-like groans, while others produce sharp, metallic whistles. Researchers have even recorded these sounds traveling for miles across the desert, as if the earth itself is tuning some colossal instrument. Yet for all their measurements, no one can fully explain why the melodies vary or why the effect is so rare. Less than 40 singing dunes exist worldwide, and Namibia's are among the most vocal. What makes Sossusvlei's performance so haunting isn't just the sound. It's the way the desert plays with perception. On still mornings before the heat distorts the air, the dunes seem to pulse with their own rhythm. The sand's iron-rich hues shift from pale pink to burnt orange as the sun climbs, and the shadows between ridges deepen into what look like ripples on a giant's skin. Local guides swear the dunes remember footsteps. They claim the same slopes sing more frequently after being disturbed by wind or human passage, as if awakened by contact. Geologists dismiss this as coincidence, but even they can't deny the uncanny timing how a gust of wind might trigger a sudden, resonant hum just as you're about to speak, silencing your words mid-breath. Modern visitors often describe an almost electric charge in the air here, a sense that the desert is watching. Photographers wait for hours to capture the moment when light and sound collide, when the setting sun sets the dunes ablaze just as a sand slide begins its otherworldly aria. Some leave with recordings that, when played back, reveal harmonics no one heard in the moment, as if the dunes reserved part of their song for later. Others report compass needles swinging erratically near certain slopes, though scientists attribute this to magnetic minerals in the sand. Perhaps the real magic of Sossusvlei lies in its refusal to be fully understood. The sand spirits may be myth, but the dunes' voices are undeniably real. They remind us that even in an age of satellites and sensors, the Earth keeps some secrets tuned to a frequency only the wild can hear. Whether you come for the science or the legend, one thing's certain: this isn't just a desert. It's a concert hall without walls, where the performer is the land itself, and every grain of sand holds a note in an ancient, untamed symphony. Hidden behind the cascading veil of Chestnut Ridge Park's waterfall in western New York, a small flicker of flame defies all expectations, burning stubbornly amidst the mist and spray. The eternal flame falls is a living paradox where fire and water don't just meet but dance together in an endless embrace. Scientists trace this marvel to natural gas seeping from shale deposits deep below, igniting when lightning or a camper's stray match first set it alight decades ago. Yet standing before it, watching that golden tongue of fire lick the damp air behind the waterfall's curtain, logic feels insufficient. The Seneca people, part of the Iroquois Confederacy, understood this better than anyone. Their stories speak of a great fire serpent, its breath still warming the earth long after the creature itself vanished into legend. To them, this wasn't a quirk of geology. It was a covenant between elements, a reminder that the world refuses to be neatly divided. What makes the eternal flame so mesmerizing isn't just its defiance of physics, but the way it shifts depending on who's looking. Geologists come with instruments, measuring the methane and ethane bubbling up through fractures in the bedrock. They'll explain how organic rich shale decomposes over millennia, releasing gases that follow faults upward until they find a spark. But even the most data-driven visitors often pause mid-explanation, struck by the flame's fragility. A strong gust or heavy rain can snuff it out only for park rangers or locals to quietly relight it, as if tending an altar. Some swear the flame burns bluer in winter, its heat more intense when the waterfall partially freezes into jagged icicles. Others whisper that it flickers in response to voices, though physicists attribute this to air currents disturbed by sound waves. Then there's the waterfall itself, an accomplice in this elemental alchemy. Most of the year, it's a modest cascade, its flow splitting around the flame's rocky alcove like parted curtains. But after spring rains or snowmelt, it swells into a roaring veil that should, by all rights, extinguish the fire beneath. Instead, the flame persists, sheltered in its shallow cave, sometimes burning low enough that visitors must crouch to see it through the spray. Photographers obsess over capturing the perfect shot, water glinting like liquid silver as it frames the fire's glow, a scene straight out of a fantasy novel. It's no wonder so many propose here. drawn by the symbolism of two opposing forces, not just coexisting, but enhancing each other's beauty. Perhaps the real magic of this place lies in its duality. For every hiker who kneels to warm their hands at the flame, there's a child wide-eyed at what looks like nature's own trick. For every scientist scribbling notes about hydrocarbon migration, there's a storyteller weaving new myths about why the fire never dies. The Seneca's serpent might be legend, but its lesson feels achingly relevant. Some truths don't fit neatly into categories. Fire isn't always destruction. Water isn't always purity. Together, in this hidden grotto, they rewrite the rules, offering a glimpse of a world where opposites don't cancel each other out. They conspire to create something extraordinary. And in a time when so much feels divided, that's a flame worth keeping alive. Scattered across Arizona's painted desert like the wreckage of an ancient battlefield, the Petrified Forest isn't just a collection of fallen trees, it's a gallery of ghosts. These shattered trunks, their surfaces polished to a gem-like sheen, aren't made of wood at all, but solid quartz glowing in shades of amethyst, jasper, and onyx. Run your hand along one, and you're touching a 225-million-year-old illusion, a tree that stopped decomposing and turned to stone instead. The ancestral pueblones who once walked these badlands saw more than geology at work. To them, these weren't fossils, they were the skeletal remains of Yetso, a monstrous giant slain by their hero twins, his bones bleached and scattered by the gods as a warning. Even today, when the low sun stretches shadows across the park, it's easy to imagine those segmented logs as vertebrae from some unfathomable creature. The science behind this transformation reads like alchemy. When these conifers fell during the late Triassic period, volcanic ash buried them in an oxygen-poor tomb, slowing decay to a crawl. Silica-rich groundwater seeped into every cellular crevice, molecule by molecule replacing organic material with minerals while preserving the original structure down to the growth rings. The result, perfect stone replicas that still show bark texture, insect burrows, and even the splintering patterns of trees that toppled during monsoons. Paleontologists treat the park as a time capsule, studying pollen grains trapped in the stone to reconstruct a lost world of ferns, crocodile-like phytosaurs, and early dinosaurs. But what's truly mind-bending is how alive these fossils feel. Crack open a piece, though strictly forbidden, more on that later, and the cross-section glitters like a stained glass window, each crystal a pixel in a prehistoric snapshot. Legends persist for a reason. Visitors who have walked the Blue Mesa Trail at dusk describe an uncanny sensation, the way certain logs seem to realign when you look away, as if the forest is reassembling itself in your periphery. Rangers chuckle at these stories but quietly admit the park has quirks. Compasses behave erratically near some of the densest quartz deposits, and infrared cameras reveal temperature anomalies where certain logs retain heat long after sunset. Even the thefts feed the mystique. Despite strict laws, thousands of pounds of petrified wood are stolen annually by tourists seeking souvenirs. Nearly all are returned by mail, often with letters describing streaks of bad luck, failed marriages, financial ruin until the thunder logs were sent back to their rightful home. Geologists roll their eyes, but the Hopi elders nod knowingly. They've always said these stones belong to the ancestors, and ancestors have ways of being heard. What makes the Petrified Forest so profound isn't just its age or beauty, but the way it dissolves boundaries between worlds. Science tells us these trees fell before dinosaurs ruled the earth, yet their stone hearts still beat with a rhythm we can feel. The Puebloan monster tales feel less like superstition and more like poetry, a reminder that awe, whether sparked by myth or microscope, connects us across millennia. Stand among these glittering relics as the desert wind whistles through their hollow cores, and you'll understand this isn't just a forest frozen in time. It's a mirror reflecting our own fleeting existence against the vast canvas of deep time. And in that reflection, even the oldest stones have something new to say. In the middle of Nevada's Black Rock Desert, where the earth cracks under the sun like a dried-up riverbed, Fly Geyser erupts in a spectacle that feels almost too vivid to be real. Jets of steaming water shoot 5 feet into the air, cascading down terraces crusted with neon green algae and fiery orange mineral deposits. The whole formation glows like a melted rainbow, a splash of surreal color against the muted desert backdrop. But here's the twist: this wasn't nature's design. Back in 1964, a drilling rig probing for geothermal energy hit a pressurized pocket of scalding water, and the accident left behind a wound that never healed. Instead of sealing the borehole, the minerals in the water began building upward, layer by layer, creating this alien spire that grows taller every year. What's fascinating isn't just the geyser's origin story, it's how life rushed in to claim it. Thermophilic algae, thriving in the scalding runoff, paint the rocks in electric hues, while silica and calcium carbonate sculpt otherworldly ridges and pools. Locals didn't just dismiss it as industrial fallout, they wove stories around it. Some say the geyser marks a portal where desert spirits emerge at dusk, their whispers carried on the steam. Others insist the water holds healing properties, a rumor fueled by the way the algae's pigments seem to shift with the light, as if the land itself is breathing. Scientists, of course, see a textbook example of extremophile ecosystems, but even they admit there's something uncanny about Fly Geyser's symmetry. The way its mineral cones stack like wedding cake tiers feels almost intentional, as if the earth decided to collaborate with human error to make art. The geyser's isolation adds to its mystique. Hidden on private land for decades, it was rarely seen by outsiders until recent years. Those who have stood beside it describe a sensory paradox, the deafening silence of the desert broken only by the hiss of boiling water, the mineral scent sharp in the dry air. At sunset, when the angled light sets the algae ablaze, the entire formation seems to vibrate with color. Photographers obsess over capturing its ever-changing palette, while geologists marvel at how quickly the landscape evolves. New vents sprout without warning, and the terraces reconfigure themselves like living architecture. It's a reminder that even our mistakes can become part of Earth's story, woven into the fabric of the wild. Fly Geyser challenges the idea that beauty must be pristine or ancient to matter. Here, human error birthed something stranger and more vibrant than anyone could have planned. The locals who spin spirit tales aren't wrong. There is magic here, just not the kind you'd expect. It's the magic of adaptation, of life seizing opportunity in the unlikeliest places. Whether you see a cautionary tale about meddling with the earth or a testament to nature's resilience, one thing's certain: this accidental wonder refuses to be ignored. And maybe that's the most human thing of all. High in the Himalayas, where the air thins and the sky stretches wide, the magnetic hill of Ladakh pulls travelers into one of nature's cleverest pranks. At first glance, it's an unremarkable stretch of road until you shift your car into neutral and watch in disbelief as it begins rolling uphill, defying gravity itself. Locals have spun tales for generations about this spot's supernatural pull, whispering of hidden magnets buried deep beneath the earth or blessings from mountain deities who tilt the world at will. Even the signs here lean into the mystery, urging visitors to place their cars at the magic point and let the unseen forces take over. The experience is so convincing that many leave swearing they've witnessed a miracle until physics steps in with a sly wink. The truth behind the illusion is a masterclass in how landscapes toy with our senses. Surrounding slopes create a false horizon, tricking the eye into misjudging which way is truly up. With no clear reference points against the barren terrain, even the steepest incline can appear flat or even reversed. Scientists call it a gravity hill, a phenomenon found in dozens of locations worldwide, from Canada's Magnetic Hill to Australia's Spook Hill. But Ladak's version hits differently. Maybe it's the altitude, thinning not just oxygen but skepticism, or the way the road's placement, framed by jagged peaks and endless blue, feels like a stage set for the impossible. Whatever the reason, even visitors who have read the explanation still gasp when their water bottles slide uphill on the dashboard, as if the laws of nature have taken a coffee break. What's fascinating isn't just the illusion itself, but how stubbornly we resist unraveling it. Park rangers here chuckle at the debates that erupt between tourists, some frantically checking their phones for rational answers, others gleefully leaning into the mystery. There's a childlike thrill in letting go of certainty, if only for a moment. The hill becomes a Rorschach test. Do you see proof of hidden forces or a clever trick of perspective? Local monks offer their own take, suggesting the experience is a lesson in humility. After all, if something as simple as a slope can upend your understanding of reality, what else might you be misreading? Yet the magnetic hill's real magic lies in its duality. By day, it's a playground for optical illusions, but come nightfall, when the stars blaze overhead unimpeded by light pollution, the sight transforms. Without visual cues, the uphill effect vanishes, leaving only the vast, silent mountains and the lingering question of why we cling to wonder even when logic prevails. Perhaps because some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're invitations to marvel at how easily our senses can be fooled, and how much richer the world feels when we allow ourselves to be surprised. Whether you come for the science or the spectacle, one thing's certain: Ladak's gravity-defying road doesn't just bend perceptions. It reminds us that sometimes the most extraordinary truths are hiding in plain sight, waiting for us to look at them sideways. From fiery craters to singing dunes, these 26 landforms prove Earth has a flair for the dramatic, not just in shaping rock and water, but in how it sparks our imagination. Each one is a conversation between geology and myth, where the raw power of nature collides with humanity's hunger for meaning. Take the door to hell, where science explains the flames but folklore warns of consequences. Or the living root bridges of Meghalaya, where biology and tradition weave together into something stronger than steel. These places don't just defy expectations. They challenge us to see the world through multiple lenses, measuring mineral compositions while still leaving room for whispers of giants and spirits. What's truly remarkable isn't just the diversity of these wonders, but how they reveal a universal truth. Awe is our oldest language. Whether it's a scientist calculating the age of petrified wood or a storyteller recounting the tears of a heartbroken giant, both are trying to articulate the same overwhelming sense of wonder. The landforms we've explored today aren't passive backdrops. They're active participants in our collective story. They've witnessed empires rise and fall, sheltered refugees and pilgrims, and inspired art that spans from ancient cave paintings to viral Instagram posts. Their legends aren't just fanciful tales, they're cultural survival tools, passed down to teach respect for forces beyond human control. Now it's your turn. Did the frozen waves of Australia's wave rock make you feel microscopic against deep time? Or did the underwater river in Senote Angelita leave you questioning reality? Maybe the singing sands of Namibia stirred something primal in your chest. These aren't just destinations, they're invitations to keep questioning, exploring, and marveling. Because for every mystery we've unraveled, like the sailing stones of Death Valley, there are countless others waiting to stir the next generation of stories. So hit that subscribe button if you're ready for more journeys into the wild, weird corners of our planet, because the Earth isn't done surprising us yet. Behind every dune, beneath every glacier, there's another chapter in this epic waiting to be discovered. And who knows, maybe one day your own adventures will add to the legends. Until then, keep looking at the world with curious eyes. You never know when you'll stumble upon magic hiding in plain sight.